What's good, YouTube? Jason Levi here with Northwest Podcast. Today I'm going to talk about a couple things pertaining to mgtow, pertaining to, you know, relationships, pertaining to sex, that type of thing. So buckle up. Let's get started.
Can I ask you something?
Uh, yeah, What's this, homework?
Yeah, but I want to ask you something else. How come if a guy messes with a lot of girls, it's cool, but if a girl does it, she's a hoe?
That's a good question. Look at it like this. If a fisherman catches 100 fish, he's a great fisherman. But if a fish gets caught 100 times, it's a dumb fish. It's thrown back, it's not really valued. You don't want to be that fish. You want to be the prize fish that's never caught, the trophy fish. Get it?
Yeah, but aren't girls fishermen too?
All right, so that right there was a little video that I wanted to show you real quick that I wanted to talk about. This concept is like real basic concept, but for some reason, it's usually women that question it. The person who posted this video on my Facebook was a woman, and women are constantly saying like, well, why can't women go around and do what men do? Can women really do what men do? And I have a whole nother podcast about it on my channel. Maybe there's some more insights there. I'm not sure, but women really can't. First of all, we have to define what men do, right? And you can easily be a blanket statement, right? That can easily be a sexist statement. What men do? Oh, well, all men are sex hounds, and all men just go out and try to get laid all the time. Da 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 da. And that's a common excuse that women use in order to be slutty or in order to, like sex. Now, here's the thing is that I don't really care if a woman is slutty or likes sex. If you're slutty and you like sex, that to me, and I've said this in other videos, or I've said this in other podcasts as well, it's not as big of a problem if you're slutty and you're okay with it. Like you admit that you're slutty, you like dick, you like to get fucked, you like to suck dick. Okay, cool. I don't really care. But what I start to care is when you're vindictive, when you lie, when you cheat on men, when you date men and hurt them. That's when I start to get more involved in your sexual. Like I start to be like, okay, well, you're actually detrimental to other people, not because you're sleeping around. When you're sleeping around, you're detrimental to yourself, potentially, if you don't use safe sex, if you're not smart with what you're doing. You can be a slut in a really smart, classy way. I've seen it all the time. You can be a slut in a really stupid, dangerous, unclean way. I've seen that as well. And both of those paths are essentially doing the same thing, but one of them is doing the thing with intelligence, foresight, caution, lots of planning, that type of thing. And the other one is just some dumb little twit who's doing some dumbass shit that she shouldn't be doing because she's immature. And there's really not a whole lot of in between, believe it or not. I've been down this road for 10 years. I've been in the dating game. I've seen the worst of the worst. I've seen the best of the best. And there's kind of almost like, it's a weird thing. It's a weird phenomenon. There's almost like a no in between. Like it's either the girl is really stupid and immature and she kind of sleeps around with, a lot of bad boys that talk her up or whatever. Or she's a classy lady, she likes sex, and she keeps it all under wraps. And there's very little in between. What I see as far as anything that can be defined as in between is I'll see a lot of women who go through boyfriends. They go through boyfriends a lot. They'll be dating a guy for a year or 2 years, and they'll sleep around every once in a while on the side. They'll cheat on him every once in a while on the side. And also in between boyfriends, they'll go out and they'll mess around a lot. But they always kind of want to have a boyfriend. So there's really only two types of women when it comes to who's sleeping around and who's slutting and who's doing what. And those two types are, there's two different categories in each of these two different types. Okay, let me break this down. So type 1 would be the girl who she's always single and she's just letting herself around. Now within that type, there's two categories. There's the type of stupid girl who doesn't use discretion. She's not cautious. She's just really dumb and kind of young and unwise, you might say. Okay, and she's the obvious slut. She's the one everyone knows she's a slut because she's got no character, personal restraint, and she's just out there fucking around a lot. Okay, there's another type of slut who's very more upper class about it. She's very cautious. She's more wise. It doesn't mean she's not more raunchy. It doesn't mean she's not more promiscuous per se. It doesn't mean she sleeps with less men. Sometimes it should mean she sleeps with less men, but that's not necessarily true either. It just means she's smarter about what she's doing. You probably won't recognize she's a slut. She'll date around every once in a while to keep up appearances, to make people think like, well, at least she's trying to get a guy, right? She just had bad luck. And this is what women do. They will date just to keep up appearances, so people won't. I mean, they're that invested in their social status and their social perception, how people perceive them socially, that they will date around every once in a while just to make it look like they got bad luck. Not really true. They just like dick. They probably have some personal aversion to long-term relationships, and I really have no problem with that. And if you look at the bigger picture, if you look at the overarching theme to this whole concept, is what it really comes down to is they're trying to justify a way that they can have sex in society and not get judged like a slut. And I get it. Like, I understand it. Okay, anyway, that's the one category. The other category is that's the one classification with the two categories. The other category is the girl who maybe has a boyfriend, maybe has a long-term husband or whatever. And I've seen this all the time as well. And she'll fuck around on the side. She'll have a fuck buddy on the side, and she'll keep up this little relationship she's got with this guy because it's comfortable. They share the rent or whatever, and she's just there because it's a comfortable situation. She's used to him, they're friends or whatever, but she'll never tell him that she's sleeping with other guys, and she does that on the side. I've seen that all the time as well. And then maybe she'll go from guy to guy, and she'll date a guy for a year, 2 years or whatever, and in between those relationships, she'll fuck around a lot. These are the two main categories of women who are promiscuous, who have a lot of sex with different guys. And it's not hidden. It's not something that should be, it's not something that should be like, they do that. I didn't know women do that. Everyone should know that. They just do that. That's just the bottom line. If you see a female, women like sex just as much as men do. You see a female who's quote unquote single, I guarantee you she's got at least one dick on the side, that she's at least got one guy on the side that she's messing around with. Some women don't. Some women stay single because they're looking for the right man. Those women I applaud. I applaud the women who do stay single, who do legitimately, but most of them lie. I'd say about 70% lie and say that, oh yeah, I don't sleep around. What they're really saying is it's none of your business. I don't want to be judged as a slut. And you could say if a girl is attractive, she's young, she's got guys around her, she hangs out with guys, she's sleeping around. It's something that happens. It's not obvious. Okay, so this young girl is questioning. She's saying, why is it okay for men to do this and they get applauded, but if women do it? So what she's really saying is she wants her cake and she wants to eat it too. She doesn't care that it's really hard for men to get laid. It's not a concern for her, because why should it be? She's a female. She's got her own set of problems. She's got her own set of goals. She wants to get married maybe someday, or she wants to find love someday, or she wants to have kids. Most definitely women are very kid centric. They're kid centered. Okay, most all of them want kids at some point. Some of them don't. I would say 20-25% of them don't. Maybe that number is going up now more because we're getting into an age, a sort of time period. What's the word? Era. There we go. We're getting into an era where people are not getting married as much. People are not that same old, oh yeah, two car garage and nuclear family kind of thing isn't what people want as much as it used to be. And so I think women are less and less. I can't even say that. I think biologically women are very much attuned to wanting children. They just like to fuck around a lot more. They like to sleep around a lot more. So it's really easy for a woman to get laid if she's relatively attractive. On the other side of the coin, it's very difficult for a relatively attractive male to get laid. It's not the same thing. And I have to drive this point home because people are constantly, or women specifically, are constantly, why is it not the same? It's not the same because you can get laid. You go out to a bar and you hit on 10 guys. All 10 of them are going to want to fuck you. A guy goes out to a bar and hits on 100 guys, he might get 1, 2 numbers. Or a guy hits on 100 women, he might get 1 or 2 numbers, or 1 or 2 girls who want to sleep with him. It's a completely different ball game. It's an absolutely different ball game. Not only that, all the woman has to do is be attractive. All she has to do is be attractive. That's it. She doesn't have to be a good character. She doesn't have to be moral or pure. Men, and this is something that I have a problem with personally. I think men absolutely need standards. Men need higher standards. So the question of, this double standard that men can do this and women can do that isn't the real question. What we really need to be asking ourselves is, what are our standards in order to sleep with somebody, or what are our standards in general in order to... Now, as far as men goes, we don't have any standards to sleep with somebody. All they have to be is attractive. Women have standards to sleep with men, though. See, that's what most mgtows should strive to understand, is that there's not a balance. We can't believe this feminism equality bullshit, because we are not the same as women. We are absolutely different creatures. They are a different gender than us. They have different biological components. They have different biological drives. They have different biological necessities and needs. Some people might throw out the word hypergamy, or hypergamy. I always say that. Hypergamy. Okay, hypergamy is going up a caste system. It's choosing a mate based on his relative success. And I say his because it's usually women are the one who are choosing the mate. Guys, unfortunately, up until now, we take it where we can get it. And this is a problem. This is what I want to change as a mgtow supporter. I want men specifically, mgtow men or whoever is listening. I want you guys to wake up and get some standards. Now, okay, you sleep around or whatever. First of all, that's dangerous. If you have the luck enough to get laid, or you say the right things, or women just like you. I mean, take what you can get, whatever. Because we're men, so it's a completely different talk. However, I will say the major problem that I have is when men get into long-term relationships with women who don't have good values, who don't have a good character, and the men basically display no semblance of personal standards. They don't have any standards for themselves. They don't have, for women, for who they're dating. They don't have any. They just take what they can get, because they're so beat down in this beta mentality and this, I gotta get a job and I gotta go and work and I gotta do everything society and so they get to a point where they just take what they can get. There's this huge imbalance. Between male female relations, social dynamics. There's a huge dichotomy there. And so for a woman to say, why is there this double standard? Why can't I just go out and sleep with someone? It's like they're just trying to get the icing on the cake. They already have everything. They already have what men want. Okay, men pay big money. Men do go out of their way to marry a woman and spend big chunks of their lives with women until they get a divorce. Just because a woman is good looking. Not because she's kind, not because has such a positive attitude or she's such a good charactered person. It's just kind of the luck of the draw. You get what you can get, and I'd rather be single. And I've done this tons of times. There are women who come my way and they just weren't up to my standards, and they wanted to love me, they wanted to date me or whatever, and I just didn't see purity in their heart. I didn't see good characters. I didn't see and for whatever reason. And to me at that time, that was something where I was just going to say, you know what, I'll pass on this. I'm going to let it go because I have better standards than this. It's not just in the looks department. It's also in your heart and your character. Do you have a good character? Do you have a good spirit? Are you spiritual? Are you, pure? And spiritual has a lot to do with being ethical, with being moral, with being, a good character. And so for a woman to say, why is there this double standard? Why can't I just go out and sleep with someone? It's like they're just trying to get the icing on the cake. They already have everything. They already have what men want. Okay, men pay big money. Men do go out of their way to marry a woman until they get a divorce. Just because a woman is good looking. It's definitely on the metaphysical lane, or on the metaphysical plane. These are things that you can't judge by outward appearance. Okay, you got a lot of money, but are you a good-hearted person? Are you righteous? Do you care about people? Do you treat people kindly? Do you judge things in a righteous way, or are you selfish? Um, do you display selfish traits? Do you display, you know, unrighteous? You know what I mean. You could study up on that. Study up on all that means. So essentially, this whole, when it comes to sex, it's not fair from the start. Women have an advantage because they want what men want. And so whenever I hear this argument come up, it's just a silly argument. Like, if a woman wants to be a slut, I really don't care, you know, in and of that self, like in and of what that is. I just don't care if you want to be a slut. Like, it doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the fact that you don't understand how easy it is for you to get laid, and you don't understand how hard it is for men to get laid. Okay, if we're just talking about sex, if we're just strictly talking about sex, women don't understand that. And not only do they not understand that, they don't really care. They take advantage of what they've got. And women are constantly having sex. It's easy for a woman to get sex, but see, it's not easy for a man to get sex. Any man. And so what happens is that women tend to think, oh, well, if it's easy for me to get sex, why shouldn't it be easy for a man to get sex? They don't have that sort of empathetic type of thinking where they can put themselves in men's shoes. They don't understand. They can't even see their own machinations and reasons for wanting to sleep with a man. And so they have no, I'm not saying all of them, okay, but most of the women I've come across and talked to, they don't have the type of broad thinking where they understand that, oh, well, it's really hard for men to get laid. All men, not just, because a guy doesn't get laid, he's a beta, or he's an omega, or he's a loser, or whatever. That's not the case. It's hard for all men to get married. Even rich men, even famous men have problems with women. Okay, have problems getting women. Believe it or not, I've seen it all the time, and I've been paying attention for the last 10 years. I've seen it over and over and over and over. Okay, married men have big problems with women, or not married men, excuse me, famous men have big problems getting women. I used to think, oh, well, geez, if you're famous, you can get any woman you want. And that's kind of true. You kind of can. But even just because you're famous doesn't mean you have game. It doesn't mean you know how to talk to a woman. It doesn't mean it's crazy. I see it, and I'm just like, wow, like, this guy's famous and he still can't get laid. It's like, whoa, but so my point is, on that note, is that women don't even realize their own standards, and they think, oh, well, I should be able to be judged by the same standards men, and it's like, it's not the same thing biologically. It's not the same thing in reality. It's not the same thing socially. It's a completely different ball game. Okay. So this, it's not fair from the start, which automatically places more responsibility on women. The responsibility to not be a slut or not be a slut is really on women. Now, again, with that said, I just don't care. If you're going to be slutty, be a slut. What I don't like is the lying about it. And to me, it all comes back to how people are perceived in society, which is a sad day, because it means that what really runs people's motivations, what really rules people's reasons for doing things, is what other people think. It's not what you think. It's not how you feel about yourself. If you like sex, amazing, go have orgies. I don't care. Be safe, but I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I think people enjoy sex, and to me, it's not that big of a deal. But what saddens me and what bothers me is when people say, do things that are shady and act shady because they're trying to cover up their conscience, because their conscience says, no, this isn't right. If your conscience says no, and I don't know, maybe you shouldn't do those things. But the point is, you should follow your conscience. But if your conscience is socially, there's a word for it, is socially geared. I forgot the word. I had a good word, but I lost it. If your conscience is socially, screwed in and nailed down to what other people think, then you're not actually succeeding in life. You're not actually, pleasing yourself. You're trying to please other people. And I have more of a problem with that than I do of you being a slut. I really do. I have more of a problem with you trying to be a people pleaser and caring what all your friends think and caring what other people think, because the truth is they don't even care about you. Those other people, and I'm talking to women right now specifically. I'm talking to everyone, but I'm specifically talking to the women who are listening to this. The people in your little social group who go to your bowling club or go to your work, or the people who you're always trying to impress, and you, oh yeah, like, it's all bullshit. No one cares. No one gives a fuck about you. No one really. I mean, people might care about you on the out. That's all fake. It's all bullshit. Oh, hey, Tammy, how's it going? How was your weekend? Oh yeah, how are the kids? No one cares. If you don't come into work, they're just going to go about their little crappy lives with their little crappy jobs. You are not going into work. You're not Clark Kent. You're not fucking or Clark Kent. You're not Clark Gable. You're not Brad Pitt. You're not. I mean, women have this idea that they're going to go work at Starbucks and everyone there loves them because they're a woman and they have a vagina. It's like, no one gives a shit. You're just some bitch that's working at Starbucks. No one cares. But I see this all the time. Like, women have this idea that there's some kind of superstar, there's some kind of diva because they just heard a Rihanna song in their little Honda Accord on their way to work, and it makes them feel like someday I'm gonna be something. Someday I'm gonna be some kind of popular, amazing diva. And the only way they can get that is when they use sex. The only way they can get into that position is when they use their sexuality. So they feel like, oh, my sexuality is so important to me because it's all I got, and people respect me because I'm pretty, et cetera, et cetera. But so that puts even more pressure on them to hide the fact that they like sex, to hide the fact that they're slutty, because we have this negative connotation on females if they're slutty. And that's why there's this huge problem, and that's why there's all these women out there that are like, oh, why can't I be slutty? Why can't I? And why do I get judged? But what it really, 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 really comes down to, obviously this is a great and interesting debate. Okay, I personally, I would love it if more women became, what's the word? If more women became, more like men, so to speak, meaning they were more aggressive. And I think there's a huge problem when it comes to, women not hitting on men. I think that's a double standard. I think that it's so easy for a woman to get hit on by a man, and they don't even think the man has to do all the work. He's got to make himself look good. He's got to go up and talk to her and say all the right things. It's far more pressure on the man. All the female does is sit back and pick which one she likes the best. So I would love it if women became more like men in that sense, if women came up and hit on men, but I just don't see it. I mean, I think it happens, but I just don't see it because they don't have to do that. All they have to do is sit back and let men come up to them. They're the ones who are doing the choosing. Men don't choose, women choose. Men try to get what they can get, and the women choose, which is why it'll never be the same thing. It'll never, ever be the same thing, not biologically, not socially, not in reality, because it's a completely different gender. It's a different scenario from top to bottom. With that said, do I think that women are shady? Yes, absolutely. Do I think women still act shady? Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I think women, if they were to be more honest with themselves, who they are, and they wouldn't try to hide the fact that they're promiscuous. I don't think that being promiscuous is such a frowned upon thing. I think that we're just constantly being dictated from this sort of hierarchical, weird kind of church background that we have, telling us we can and can't do certain things, and we should find love and marry, well, whatever. I think that, yeah, we should be moral and we should be ethical as much as we can. If we like sex, though, we fucking like sex. Oh well. What I don't like is the lies. I don't like the covering up and the hiding, and I don't like women adhering and to society to the point where they're so worried about what everyone else thinks. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's silly. I think nobody really cares about you as much as you think that they do. They really don't. When you learn about that, when you grow up and you get into the real world, people are just bothered about their own life. They're bothered about what they have to do on fucking Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. I'm bothered what I have to do today. They don't give a shit about what Jenny did last weekend at the club. She sucked off 5 guys in the parking lot. No one gives a fuck. Okay, yeah, that's crazy. Oh, wow. For like a week, they'll think about it, and then it's over, and then they go on with their lives. No one gives a shit. I'm not saying you should suck off 5 guys in the parking lot. I'm just saying, like, people don't care about you as much as you think they do. everybody, men, women, everybody has to wake up to this reality. All right, we're not as much cared about as we think we are. We need to wake up out of our little "I'm special" bubble. Wake up out of that little ethnocentric, egotistical bubble that says I'm so special, everything matters to me, and it doesn't. It doesn't. You're not famous. You're not fucking Michael Jackson. You're not fucking. He's dead, but it's, you're not fucking Rihanna. You're not Beyonce. You're not Madonna. Well, whatever. You're not fucking President Obama. People don't give a shit about you. They don't care what you do. They don't care what you fucking had for breakfast. I don't give a fuck what you put on Facebook. I don't care if you ate a strawberry upside down shortcake. I don't give a shit if you made pancakes and waffles. I don't give a fuck. All right, I don't give a fuck if you made crepes and you learned about the recipe from your friend in Italy. I don't give a fuck. And no one else should. Why are we giving attention to stupid shit like that? It's because we're socially retarded. We're socially behind. We need to evolve socially. Who gives a fuck what this person did on this time? No one. We shouldn't. But because we all want to be famous and we all want to be special and we all want to, you can't make yourself feel good. You can't, have self-worth and self-confidence and self-happiness out of your own self. You really need that much validation from society and from your friends. People do. It's sad. Anyway, so I think it'll never be the same thing. We're just talking, if we're talking strictly sex, it'll never be the same thing. When it comes to love, that's a bit of a different story. When it comes to future and relationships, then both men and women have a huge responsibility as far as, do you really want to sleep with a bunch of people before you meet your love of your life? Is that what you really want to bring into a relationship? Oh yeah, I've slept with a bunch of people. I think it should be for both men and women. If I used to want to save myself for females. I used to want to save myself for love. I really did. There was a long time when I was like, oh, I really want to save myself, and it just never happened. I hit the wall, but I hit a wall of women who were doing what women were doing. This was back in the 90s, and young women, of course, high school girls that I wanted love in high school. And I hit a wall, and that wall was the wall of games and the wall of hypergamy that I didn't even know hypergamy existed at that time. And even though, they wanted bad boys, they wanted the socially popular guys, and I didn't even realize it. I was on the basketball team, and women wanted me, and I didn't even realize they wanted me because I didn't even understand the social cues at that time, because I just had no clue. Women even would hit on me. It would come up and hit on me and flirt with me, and I got so nervous I didn't even know what to do. I still got a lot of numbers. I still got a lot of women who I called and stuff, or young women, young girls in high school or whatever that I called. And then it was like I just was so weird and nervous. I didn't know how to talk to them. And it just was all, I was embarrassed. I just got embarrassed, and I got hurt after a while because I realized, they want bad boys. And it took me a long time to realize that they didn't just want love like I wanted love. They wanted men for being bad boys. They wanted men for all the reasons that we know in mgtow, for their status, for their money, for their, social worth and all these things, right? So I used to want to save myself. I didn't want to have sex. I wasn't so sexual. And then, certain things like porn came in, and then I became more sexual, and I realized that, which was a double-edged sword, because it also made me realize that women are very sexual as well, and I didn't realize that at that time. I didn't want to think that way. I didn't want to think that women were out there fucking around. I wanted to have that narrative in my head that women were pure and women were kind and women were nice, but they weren't. And I realized over time it was harsh, and even porn actually helped me to realize that women, they'll sleep with men for money. They'll fuck around. They'll go out on the weekends and get drunk and sleep with a whole bunch of men. And it's like, wow, I didn't know. And then they make it so hard on us to we want sex, but we just have to do and say the right things to get the sex. So the standard and the bar is really high up there. And it's like, it's just inconsistent. It's inconsistent. And that's the biggest thing that I think I have problem with. That's one of the biggest problems that I have with women is that they're inconsistent. Like I said, if you like sex, then you like sex. Live with that, own it, be it. But the problem is you're inconsistent. You lie. You only sleep with certain caliber of men, which is unfair. And that's why a lot of men hate you. That's why a lot of society doesn't like you in general, because you're not consistent. You want your cake and you want to eat it too, and that's why you have a lot of women who get pregnant by these lone wolves. They're not alphas; they're gammas, as I already said. I've said before in other videos. I've clearly drawn that point home. They have sex with a lot of lone wolf bad boy types, gamma men, right? And then they eventually get knocked up and pregnant. They try to get pregnant from an alpha guy. They try to, you know, bed down or nail down an alpha guy, but they usually can't, because alphas want the best females and alphas can get the best females. So they're maybe not the best females, maybe they're sexy or whatever, they could have sex or whatever, but they're just not. You believe it or not, alphas want women who are more pure. Alphas want women who have stronger characters. And if they don't, then unfortunately they probably don't even realize that it's them. It's your fault. It's your fault you have a bad character. It's your fault that alphas don't want to fuck you, or not, excuse me, that alphas don't want to marry you, because you go out and you fuck around. You go out and you sleep around, and alphas don't want that. Alphas want a monogamous, loyal woman. Whether or not women understand that, they do. I mean, men don't just want a slutty, rag, a slutty cum rag. We want good women. And I think that's such a misconception in society, that men are just, we just want to fuck whatever. We can take whatever we can get. And there are men out there who are like that, because they're just desperate. Okay, nobody necessarily wants a desperate person, but unfortunately, society is the way that it is. Women are very, very choosy. The truth is that 80% of the women sleep with 20% of the men, and that is I heard that a while ago, and that's a very good saying. I think that's very true. Most of the men are not getting laid. Only a select few are, and those select few are sleeping with. It's like the rooster and the hens. Like, there's one rooster and he fucks like 20 hens, and that's how it goes. That's how it goes in human society as well. So it's not right for a woman to do all this shady shit and then come back and try to marry a beta, or come back and try to marry the kind of man who they were friend zoning all in their 20s, and now that the guy's 30 and he's got a really nice job and they're pregnant by some other random fucking lone wolf gamma guy who they fucked and didn't use protection, and now they want the beta to come in and clean up their life, and because I want your money, and it's like, no, men need to stop that shit. Stop letting women get away with that. Let those bitches be single. There's all kinds of, I'd say like 80% of women on dating sites have kids. Anyway, it's getting crazy. So women naturally, have more responsibility, I think, when it comes to sex, because of the relative ease with which they can get laid. I mean, that's just simple. That's a simple concept. Everyone should understand that. I'm tired of hearing it. I'm tired of hearing women say, why can't I do what you do? Because it's super easy for you to get laid. I don't know if you've noticed this yet, bitch, but you have a very high standard for who you want to have sex with. Men have to lower our standards because we have to take what we can get. It's a completely different ballgame when it comes to just sex. Now, if it comes to marriage and love, I don't think anybody should be out sleeping around. If you want to get married and you want to fall in love and you want to have kids and live happily ever after, I don't think anybody should be out sleeping around. I think people should save themselves for that loved one, and I tried to do that when I was younger. I thought that's what I wanted, and then I realized that most women are just bullshitting. They're out there bullshitting. And so I've heard red pill after red pill come on my channel and say, it's all women. There's no such thing as a narwhal. There's no such thing as not all women are like that. It's all women. It's all women. Da, 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 da. And I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, it would seem that way. It really would. It would seem that women, take they take what they can get, just like men do, and what they can get, fortunately for them, is pretty much any man they want if they're relatively attractive, because guys will sleep with you if you're relatively attractive as far as sex goes. Now, the problem with that is guys won't wife you up. Guys won't date you. Guys won't get into a relationship with you. That they're just going to sleep with you and leave you, which is why, I mean, this is all textbook 101 relationship dynamic shit. But a lot of times we don't think about how blatant and how obvious these things really are. These things happen, and that's just the way that it is. Women will easily get sex, but they won't get a guy to stick around. So then they get, I want a guy to stick around. Well, you guys just fuck me and they leave me, and they got this. So they're in this catch-22, and they're in this kind of sexual purgatory where they love sex, they love sleep around, and they do sleep around, but then part of them inside feels like, oh, I want a guy to stay, I want a boyfriend, da, 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 da. But guys aren't gonna, hopefully, I would say guys shouldn't stick around with you and date you and love you if you don't deserve it. Why would you deserve it? If you sucked my dick the first time we ever met, if we've just been fucking every time we hang out, and that's the basis of our whole relationship, why would I wife you down? Why would I put a ring on it? It doesn't make any fucking sense. But then when it comes to but see, the problem is that it's not so cut and dry for women. See, when it comes to long term, then there's this whole other thing that kicks in, which is their biology. This whole other hypergamy thing kicks in, and I want the best man because it's all about kids at that point. Oh, I want the good man for my kids, and then at that point, it's just it's over. It's over at that point. It's all fucked up at that point, because you can't. From what I've seen, and I haven't been proven wrong, women can't just be with a man, okay, and love him for who he is in his heart and in his person. They have to be with a man who has got social status, who's got some kind of, and it takes a lot of bad relationships, takes a lot of bad tries, because women want to feel proud about their man. My man does this, and my man does that, and he's got this car, and look at how good he looks. My man this, and my man that. You know what I mean? It's all about outward. It's not like, oh, I can just love my man. I can love the guy that I'm with. I love him for who he is. It's all about, what he does for me, and he wooed me, and he did this, and woo, I'm so proud. And it's all ego. It's all ego. It's 100% ego. It's like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And I think a lot of other men, which is why we're mgtow, which is why we've come this far, which is why we've chosen this route, is because we see through that. That's exactly what we see. We see this bullshit. We see these double standards. We see this ego that comes out when, oh, my man is the captain of the basketball team. My man is he owns his own business and he makes a lot of money. My man, and it's all about that outward shit. You don't really love a man for who he is. You love a man for what he does. You love a man for his accolades. You love him for what he does in his career. And I see this, and it just blows my mind. It boggles me to no end. A man's worth in society today, in 2016, and in the past, I don't know, half of century or century, I don't know how long this has been going on, because I've only been here for a quarter of a century and change. Okay, men's worth, what a man is, who a man is, and who he is not based on his character, not based on his morals, not based on his motives, not based on his heart, whether righteous or unrighteous, or not based on his character, any of that. It's based on what he does. That's why someone like Donald Trump can be winning a presidential election. The guy's a bigot. He's an asshole. I'm not saying Hillary is any better. I'm not for any of those fuckers. I'm not for government at all. Fuck all that shit. I'm for the people. That's why someone like Donald Trump, that's why someone, because they have a lot of money, because they have prestige, they have social status, social worth, social pull kind of thing. They can come in and people can look up to them and, wow, praise them. Like, oh, Donald Trump this, and wow, Why? Because of what they do.